Hello again, and welcome to the lesson for Chapter 5 of The Giver by Lois Lowry. Once again, we're going to go back to our gathering evidence sheet for Chapters 4 and 5. So if you would pull yours out, it looks like this. So for Chapter 4, we focused only on question 1. As we do Chapter 5 today, we're actually going to focus only on question 2. Questions 3 and 4 actually deal with all of chapters 1 through 5. So once we finish reading chapter 5, we'll go back to those 2 questions, and you will actually have to go back and forth and look around within the book in chapters 1 through 5 to find the quotes that you need. So once again, let's start with the directions, just thinking through what it is that we're doing. So step 1, what is it that you're going to gather evidence about? Underline the keywords and the focusing questions in this assignments above. So we're focusing just on question 2. Let's take a look at what it says. In chapter 5, we read about the morning ritual of dream telling. What is the significance of the discussions that take place in the family unit in the mornings and in the evening ritual of sharing feelings? Make a claim regarding your thoughts and support it with a text detail. So reread that to yourself, and with your pen, pencil, or highlighter, underline or highlight the key words of what you will need to do to answer that question properly. So we need to know significance. Significance means importance. What is the importance of them doing this? And we're talking about these discussions of, it doesn't even say, oh, it does up here, dream telling, morning, sharing feelings, evening. So either one. So the key thing here is, what is the significance of the discussions? And then you will need to make a claim, your belief as to what these are. I'm going to leave it just at that. If you had more highlighted, that's fine. All right, so once again, what information will we need to be able to answer the guiding question to explain your answer? So this question, step 2, if you're in class, turn to your partner, look at your graphic organizer, remind each other, how are we going to fill this out? What goes in each column? Where do you get that information from? So as we look at the chart, column 1, detail / evidence. We should have already filled in the quotes about release. So now we're taking a look at quote about the morning ritual of dream telling, quote about the evening ritual of sharing feelings. We may need to go back to, was it chapter 2, I think, that had the sharing of feelings, to be able to find that particular quote. Are you going to type something in this box? I've already typed something there. Yes, you are. You can handwrite it in class, pen or pencil. You are going to put down the actual quote, put it in quotation marks because it's not your words. It's coming from where? The book. And so will column 2, where you record what the page that came from. All right, the next question on that page asks you what goes in columns 3. Actually, it doesn't say 3 and 4, it just says 3. We see inference / reasoning. This is your explanation of how this quote answers the question. Not just telling me what the quote means, but connecting that quote to the question and how it's going to begin to answer it. How is this quote that you pulled, or this detailed evidence that you pulled, support for your claim? Because you're going to be thinking about, okay, if we're sharing our dreams in the morning, sharing our feelings and analyzing them at night, what is the, why do they do this? What's the importance? What's your thought about that? You need to have a connection. Now the 4th column, which once again, we're not using just yet, used in your writing. Once we start actually planning out and writing our answers, you will either put a check in that box or a yes. Oh, I forgot to ask you, where does the inference reasoning information come from? Comes from your brain. That is your thinking. Why are we doing this? Why are we gathering the information? What are we trying to figure out? We're trying to get a better understanding of the community and the novel, right? And we're answering these questions to help us understand that, and then we're gathering the information to have a better support of that information. All right, let's start reading chapter 5 as we see down here. As I read, if we are in class, you may raise your hand. We will stop and go along the way to fill out the chart first before coming down to do number 5, where we write a claim, which would be our topic sentence of the answer, and the chart above is the support of that topic sentence. Okay, so chapter 5. Usually at the morning ritual, when the family members told their dreams, Jonas didn't contribute much. He rarely dreamed. Sometimes he awoke with a feeling of fragments afloat in his sleep, but he couldn't seem to grasp them and put them together into something worthy of telling at the ritual. But this morning was different. He had dreamed very vividly the night before. His mind wandered while Lily, as usual, recounted a lengthy dream, this one a frightening one in which she had, against the rules, been riding her mother's bicycle and been caught by the security guards. They all listened carefully and discussed with Lily the warning that the dream had given. "Thank you for your dream, Lily," Jonas said, the standard phrase automatically, and tried to pay better attention while his mother told of a dream fragment, a disquieting scene where she had been chastised for a rule infraction she didn't understand. Together, they agreed that it probably resulted from her feelings when she had reluctantly dealt punishment to the citizen who had broken the major rules a second time. Father said he had no dreams to tell, or had no dreams. So before I go on, last time we talked about, do you do anything like that at the dinner table where you talk about what happened during the day, you share your feelings, etc.? Perhaps that you do, but you don't necessarily analyze them. How about at breakfast? Do you guys talk about your dreams ever? In our home, we're not always necessarily at the table all at the same time eating breakfast like we do for dinner, but we're in and out and grabbing things. And quite often, dreams are a discussion that we have. I have one daughter in particular who always dreams, I think because she's not a deep sleeper, but she's always got these tales to tell, goes on and on telling us all of the things. And usually instead of analyzing and saying, well, that dream was a warning, or perhaps you dreamt that because, instead we kind of laugh, I'm like, oh, where'd that come from? And move on with our day. So it's a slightly different than maybe what you have in your own home. Perhaps you raised your hand as I read that page, because I mentioned two things there that we see about the morning telling of dreams. We see that it's possibly a warning for Lily. We see that, what did it say about mother? They agreed it was probably resulted from her feelings. So they come up with these reasons behind their dreams. You could choose any of those quotes. I don't think there's going to be one particular best one that I'm going to say, let's put it in the chart together. Instead, I'll point some out as we go, and you can pick what you want. Now, there's a reason we learn about the dreams. Something else will come along. Gabe, Father asked, looking down at the basket where the new child lay gurgling after his feeding, ready to be taken back to the nurturing center for the day. They all laughed. Dream telling began with threes. If new children dreamed, no one knew. Jonas, Mother asked. They always asked, though they knew how rarely Jonas had a dream to tell. I did dream last night, Jonas told them. He shifted in his chair, frowning. Good, Father said, tell us. The details aren't clear, really, Jonas explained, trying to recreate the odd dream in his mind. I think I was in the bathing room at the house of the old. That's where you were yesterday, Father pointed out. Jonas nodded, but it wasn't really the same. There was a tub in the dream, but only one, and the real bathing room had rows and rows of them. But the room in the dream was warm and damp. And I had taken off my tunic, but hadn't put on the smock, so my chest was bare. I was perspiring because it was so warm, and Fiona was there, the way she was yesterday. Asher too? Mother asked. Jonas shook his head. No, it was only me and Fiona alone in the room, standing beside the tub. She was laughing. But I wasn't. I was almost a little angry at her in the dream because she wasn't taking me seriously. Seriously about what? Lily asked. Jonas looked at his plate. For some reason that he didn't understand, he felt slightly embarrassed. I think I was trying to convince her that she should get into the tub of water. He paused. He knew he had to tell it, but that it was not only all right, but necessary to tell all of a dream. So he forced himself to relate the part that made him uneasy. I wanted her to take off her clothes and get into the tub, he explained quickly. I wanted to bathe her. I had the sponge in my hand, but she wouldn't. She kept laughing and saying no. He looked up at his parents. That's all, he said. Can you describe the strongest feeling in your dream, son? Father asked. Jonas thought about it. The details were murky and vague, but the feelings were clear and flooded him again now as he thought. The wanting, he said. I knew that she wouldn't, and I think I knew that she shouldn't, but I wanted it so terribly I could feel the wanting all through me. Thank you for your dream, Jonas, Mother said after a moment. She glanced at Father. Lily, Father said, it's time to leave for school. Would you walk beside me this morning and keep an eye on the new child's basket? We want to be certain he doesn't wiggle himself loose. Jonas began to rise to collect his school books. He thought it surprising that he hadn't talked about his dream at length before the thank you. Perhaps they found it as confusing as he had. Wait, Jonas, Mother said gently. I'll write an apology to your instructor so that you won't have to speak one for being late. He sank back down into his chair, puzzled. He waved to Father and Lily as they left the dwelling, carrying Gabe in his basket. He watched while Mother tidied the remains of the morning meal and placed the tray by the front door for the collection crew. Finally, she sat down beside him at the table. Jonas, she said with a smile, the feeling you described as the wanting, it was your first stirrings. Father and I have been expecting it to happen to you. It happens to everyone. It happened to Father when he was your age, and it happened to me. It will happen to someday to Lily. And very often, Mother added, it begins with a dream. Stirrings. He had heard the word before. He remembered that there was a reference to the stirrings in the Book of Rules, though he didn't remember what it said. And now and then the speaker mentioned it. Attention, a reminder that stirrings must be reported in order for treatment to take place. He had always ignored that announcement because he didn't understand it, and it had never seemed to apply to him anyway. He ignored, as most citizens did, many of the commands and reminders read by the speaker. Do I have to report it? He asked his mother. She laughed. You did, in the dream telling. That's enough. But what about the treatment? The speaker says that treatment must take place. Jonas felt miserable. Just when the ceremony was about to happen, his ceremony of 12, would he have to go away someplace for treatment just because of a stupid dream? But his mother laughed again in a reassuring, affectionate way. No, she said, it's just the pills. You're ready for the pills. That's all. That's the treatment for stirrings. Jonas brightened. He knew about the pills. His parents both took them each morning, and some of his friends did, he knew. Once he had been heading off to school with Asher, both of them on their bikes, when Asher's father had called from their dwelling doorway. You forgot your pill, Asher. Asher had groaned good-naturedly, turned his bike and ridden back while Jonas waited. It was the sort of thing one didn't ask a friend about because it might have fallen into the uncomfortable category of being different. Asher took a pill each morning. Jonas did not. Always better, less rude to talk about things that were the same. Now he swallowed the small pill that his mother handed him. That's all? He asked. That's all, she replied, returning the bottle to the cupboard. But you mustn't forget. I'll remind you the first weeks, but then you must do it on your own. If you forget, the stirrings will come back. The dreams of stirrings will come back. Sometimes the dosage must be adjusted. Asher takes them, Jonas confided. His mother nodded, unsurprised. Many of your group mates probably do. The males at least, and they all will soon, females too. How long will I have to take them? Until you enter the house of the old, she explained. All of your adult life, but it becomes routine. After a while, you won't even pay much attention to it. She looked at her watch. If you leave right now, you won't even be late for school. Hurry along. And thank you again, Jonas, she added as he went to the door, for your dream. Pedaling rapidly down the path, Jonas felt oddly proud to have joined those who took the pills. For a moment, though, he remembered the dream again. The dream had felt pleasurable, though the feelings were confused. He thought that he had liked the feeling that his mother had called stirrings. He remembered that upon waking, he had wanted to feel the stirrings again. Then, in the same way that his own dwelling slipped away behind him as he rounded a corner on his bicycle, the dream slipped away from his thoughts. Very briefly, a little guiltily, he tried to grasp it back, but the feelings had disappeared. The stirrings were gone. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about that just right now. If we are in the classroom and you want to ask questions, then certainly we'll take a few minutes to discuss what I'm willing to share at this point, because a lot of this I want you to start to figure out on your own. What I'm going to suggest is on your own, I'm going to have you continue to fill in the chart where you're getting your detailed evidence for the morning dreams and the evening telling of feelings. Now, I talked about quotes, but I will also allow a specific detail. So perhaps you wish to share some information about Jonas telling his dream, which is technically reporting a stirring, which is one of the rules, and then the fact that they now know that he needs to take a pill. And to find a specific sentence in there that's going to support that might be tricky. So instead, you can paraphrase or summarize, but you still have to give me a page number or two based on where that information came from. And you need to be as specific as you possibly can. That still goes in that box where we've been putting the quotes, and you still need to explain it with your thinking. Okay, now the same is true for the evening telling of feelings. If you can remember specifically enough to give me a detail, but here's the tricky part, I do need you to put page numbers. So you do need to go back and you need to peruse, kind of peek through. I'm going to hint that I'm almost positive it was chapter 2, because, well, 2 into 3, because 3 is when they start talking about his. So yeah, it was chapter 2. Go back through chapter 2 and find as specific as you possibly can to give me a page number, whether it's a specific quote where you put the exact words from the book, or if you give me a detail. So if you exact words from the book, make sure you put quotations around it. And if it's a paraphrase, then you do not need to put the quotation marks around it, but you do need to record the page number. Once you have your details and you've explained those, you're going to go down to question 5 and think through how you want to answer that question, which is question 2 at the top. I know this worksheet is a little confusing. Probably could rework this a little to make it easier. Explaining the significance of these 2 rituals. On number 5, it is one sentence. You are making a claim. This is your argument as to what you believe is the reason for those 2 rituals. It's your topic sentence. So as we've talked about topic sentences, try to use one of those strategies in this box here. You do not need to give the details or support on this worksheet yet. We're practicing getting the topic sentence down. If we are in the classroom, I am going to ask to check them if we have time before these get turned in to me. I want to approve it and give you a chance to make it better if need be. Now, for homework, or if we have time in the classroom, I want you to go back to the other questions. Actually, I'm going to stop this video here and I'll make a short little video where I go through that quickly. and we'll discuss it. So we'll wrap that up in a little bit.